Hello, viewers. Well, the much anticipated Dirt Rally 2.0 was announced in the last few days. Of course, I've been playing it at a recent event, and now we're going to discuss it in more detail. I'm joined today by Kevin.
Hi, guys.
And James Allen.
Howdy, folks.
Okay, so guys, we're going to talk a bit about it in a bit more detail, and I'm going to give you my feedback, frank feedback, on what we think of Dirt Rally so far, as well as, you know, kind of the gist of feeling from some of your comments on the videos. The first thing that the announcement was, I think, you know, we've discussed it in the past. What was wrong with Dirt Rally 1? Well, primarily it didn't have enough locations, it didn't have enough content. We wanted more, and we were disappointed that more content never came. What do we have? Like 5 locations, I think, in Dirt Rally, something like that. I think we were expecting 8 locations at least, and at least 10 rallycross circuits. At the announcement, we got the information that there was just 6 new rally locations. I think initially in the announcement, I found that somewhat underwhelming. It didn't tick my box in terms of variety of locations I was looking for, with a far greater emphasis now on rallycross.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll talk about more of that in a moment. But 8 rallycross circuits, which is better than before, but they are quite small. I think we expected at least 10 rallycross circuits there. So in terms of the first package that's going to be launched, it didn't necessarily blow me away in terms of what was new. I was expecting a lot more new than that. Also, it was revealed in the presentation that the game has only been in development since they finished Dirt 4. Quite a surprise. The game's only been in development for 1 year. And there was us thinking that Dirt Rally had been in development for 2 years. You know, you've had this massively successful Dirt Rally, and surely your job would be to continue developing that, to make Dirt Rally 2. But it seems that wasn't the case. They sort of shelved it, made Dirt 4, and then come back to it here. So I think feelings on location initially was disappointing, but obviously we saw the gameplay from John Armstrong, and the graphics do look very impressive. They look different. I've seen people mentioning the change in color palette and tone, but it's very difficult to say whether there's any changes or whether that's just down to lighting and time of day, stuff like that. So until we get a later version of the game, I don't think there's any sort of issues there. I think personally, I think it's very nicely detailed. I think the rally stage looked really good. The dirt, the foliage, it was very rich in detail. But again, it's one stage of one rally. You really can't get anything from it at this early stage. The rallycross itself, we'll come back to that into more detail, but it seems to be a much bigger element now. It'll be interesting to see how that, how much is in there in terms of cars and tracks and how that develops in the future. But Kevin, to bring you in first, what was your first impressions on the announcement of Dirt Rally 2.0? Dirt Rally 2. Let's just call it Dirt Rally 2.
Yeah, we'll call it 2 because 2.0 is a bit of a mouthful.
It is.
It's a nod, obviously, to Colin McRae 2.0, but I don't think it was necessarily necessary to call it that. But anyway, my initial thoughts are, I think Dirt Rally had about 6 locations, and we're getting 6 again with Dirt Rally 2. I mean, one of the biggest problems for Dirt Rally was the fact that the lack of locations, and a lot of people see Dirt Rally as a sort of testbed game because it was very simulation oriented. It was very unexpected from Codemasters, who are very much sort of arcade style games, and to come out with 2.0 with again 6 rally locations, for me it really was underwhelming, to say the least, because they're not rectifying the problems that their previous games, Dirt Rally and Dirt 4, had. So it seems like not really making a massive move forward in terms of rally. But like you say, the focus is very much on the rallycross. It's officially licensed, of course. There's 8 rallycross tracks, as you said, and I believe there's more to come as the rallycross season progresses. Whether they'll make the full calendar of 12 remains to be seen. But it's only 4 on top of the base 8. So it's not a stretch to imagine that they might make the full 12 in due course. But it seems like with the focus on rallycross, it might not be necessarily what the market wants. I think people want more rally locations and not so bothered about the rallycross. So the fact that they've focused on rallycross may annoy a few people, certainly, but it's interesting to see where they go with the rallycross. Can they have a full calendar? How will they implement that into the career mode? Does the career mode take any nods from, say, Dirt 4? Because the career mode in Dirt Rally was very sort of it lacked presentation, it lacked a bit of spirit, a bit of character. It felt like a PC racing sim, and the fact that it had, not much of a soul to it. So it'd be interesting to see what elements they actually have from Dirt 4 in that aspect. But yeah, initially underwhelmed, I would say, overall by the lack of improvement in terms of content for the rally locations.
James, what were your feelings?
Initially, sort of as has been alluded to by Kevin, it was a little bit mixed. I personally wasn't expecting a Dirt Rally game so soon after Dirt 4. I thought they could probably give it another year or so just to give a bit more development time and perhaps a bit more time to help perhaps extend the life of Dirt 4. Now they've got the esports series attached to it. The push to Rallycross is quite apparent. I can see what they're doing. It Rallycross is growing in popularity at quite a rate. That doesn't personally do anything for me, but it is an increasingly more popular sport than it was, say, a few years ago. And so, from a branding perspective, I can see why they've attached the Rallycross license there. Location-wise, again, it is a bit disappointing that there's only 6 different stages, but at least the locations are varied. I mean, New Zealand's going to feel more different than Australia. Poland's going to feel different to Argentina. There's enough difference in terms of the visuals to them to feel a bit more distinct.
No, I think that it's. I think that, like you say, they have gone for that variety in stages. I think that the feeling was that they wanted to build on it in a number of ways, and of course, one of the big new elements is the deformable ground, so that obviously the stages evolve as the different cars go over them. And I think it was quite interesting. You'll hear the interview with John. That actually being the first car out isn't always the best. It's sort of being a car going out sort of halfway through is the stage is its optimum. It compacts the ground and it is before it gets too heavily ridged. And then when you get these ridges in there, you end up driving in these ridges, essentially these lines that appear, these track lines, and you've got to be quite perfect. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how much the stage deforms, how much that impacts on your driving. And also the tire compounds, they've got new tire compounds in there now. And again, that was something I asked him, how do you use tires differently? What will affect things? And that's something as well that, with F1, and obviously I'm a track racer, I get it. I get my soft tires. They get nice and grippy. They wear out soon. Harder tires, a bit slower, last a long time. But it's going to be interesting to see in terms of rally, in terms of the stages, the various types of surface, and how weather conditions come into play in terms of selecting those tires. And I think that's going to be quite interesting. So I can see that they've gone for a variance in terms of the rally. Not certain of how that all works when it comes to rallycross, but something we've raised is there's not the locations we wanted, but they are adding them. The feeling from the Codemasters chaps that were there was they do intend to support this with additional content. And that's interesting because Codemasters traditionally haven't really done much, if anything, in the way of extra content in terms of DLC, but they're definitely planning on something here. It seems to me they've got some announcements coming. So the vibe was, if there's not everything you want there at launch, there could be some surprises coming down the line that are going to make everybody happy, and we'll wait and see what they could be. So that could bring it all together. The next question is that going to be free or is it going to be paid DLC? If it was free, it would be part of the actual product. If it's paid, it's a separate product.
I know there's they're calling seasons. There's 2 seasons of DLC content included in the deluxe edition. So essentially, you're paying for those extra DLC. So I imagine it'd be available separately to regular owners of the game as paid DLC. And the first 2 seasons are included in the deluxe edition, like I said. But there'll be future season content as well. So there's a long-term plan, isn't there, with Dirt Rally 2? I imagine it's all going to be paid DLC. They might throw in the odd maybe free car as a little goodwill gesture, but who knows? I mean, there's something we've seen from Milestone recently. They've been giving us some free DLC every so often, but it's probably more a case of holding back some vehicles from the list and then just sort of giving it to players and calling it free DLC rather than including it in the base package. So who knows?
Yeah. We
Is it
never,
really
we don't
free
like
or-
that.
But no, if
Yeah.
it is the case, we certainly don't like that way of doing
No,
things.
I mean, we'll wait and see. I mean, you know, there is a part of me that sees that Dirt Rally could be for many people, a definitive rally game. It's not restricted by the official license you have in WRC or Formula One.
Which makes it all the more shame that we're only getting 6 locations. I guess the ground defamation is probably a good reason for that number. You know, they've only given us 6, but they're going to give us 6 that really sort of has a bit of depth to it with the physics and the ground defamation. But it'd be interesting to see how it all comes together, because from what we've seen so far of New Zealand, it does look pretty flat. You know, perhaps it was a good showcase for journalists to get on and not struggle too much with the stage, because it does look a little bit on the easy side. But I remember Ross Gowlin said that there is a very difficult stage in Argentina, which is the hardest rally stage I've included in the game. So it's going to be certainly a challenge there.
Yeah, I mean, it's pointless putting people on a stage. I mean, when you turn up to these events, you're racing these games for the first time. Many of the people, it should be pointed out, that are there are not specific racing journalists, they're games journalists. And if you put them onto the hardest stage in the world, all they're going to do is fall off every single corner and say, I don't like this. And that's, I mean, to be fair, Dirt Rally's a tough game, a really tough game. And when you first play Dirt Rally, nobody's quick at it. It takes time to really understand. And there are always sort of, I don't know, 5 or 6 corners in each stage that are the ones that always get you every time. And you really need to hook those up, and then it really starts coming together. So when we saw it at this event, obviously we had John showing how it was done. Then we all got on there. And it was very challenging. I mean, my don't get me wrong, I'm not on the limit in my driving anywhere near it, you know, but more just getting used to the handling. We were driving a front wheel, you know, whatever, Volkswagen Golf or something, and it was, it didn't work for me. I'm just not that kind of a driver. So you really need to throw the car into a corner, oversteer it essentially, and control it on the exit. I'm more of a track racer. I much prefer rear wheel drive, you know, getting on the power and controlling it that way. And also, you've got to get used to the calls. I know that I play all these different rally games and stuff like that, but the calls are always very different in terms of a feeling of how you throw the car into the corner. You know, there were corners on this stage where I didn't know if I needed to use the handbrake or not. I wasn't certain. You know, I found that the car understeered to an extent that normally you'd use your handbrake in a hairpin, but I actually found myself needing to use a handbrake in a one corner quite often. And it really made a difference in terms of gradient changes, and they made a big change as well. So it's impossible to sort of drive it like John on your first go. But I certainly, and that's why when people talk about the handling, they say it's a handling, but it's a handling. Well, I can't tell you. It's one understeery front wheel drive car. It certainly, you get an idea on the sort of weight of the car, and there is definitely more of a weight feeling to it. The car drifts nice and easily in that sense if you get the car early into the corners. If you go too slow and you don't get it right, the car understeers terribly on the exit, and you will see me doing that quite often. But I rely very much on the experts they have, you know, and they've got real rally drivers testing the game. They've got real, you know, rally, you know, sort of dirt rally experts, everything else. They've got their own people behind the scenes working on it.
And then they're not just shipping them in, are they? One of them's been there every day, apparently. So they're having a real sort of impact on development, rather than just saying, you know, getting someone in, saying, oh, we've got this person, taking a few, you know, snapshots and, you know, just as a marketing tool. But this is actually someone that's going in there day in, day out and helping with development, which is great to see.
Yeah, I mean, they really are working on the handling, and they, you know, they got a lot right in Dirt Rally. They got some things right and wrong in Dirt 4. And I think they're trying to bring it all together now with bags more depth. So I think in terms of handling, it's way too early to sort of decide, you know, this is going to be amazing or not. I mean, we'll have to try the different cars. We've got to see the different stages, and then we'll get a much better idea on how good it is. You know, I see people looking at a video and saying, oh, it looks like Dirt 4. You know, I mean, it's impossible to say what it's going to be like. I mean, in different videos, some people were using assists and some people aren't. I'm using assists in some videos, for example, the controller, hand controller videos, but I'm not in some of the other videos. So, and in some cases I had no idea, because when you turn up to these events, the demo is quite restrictive. You don't change any options on the demo. You just sort of play what's there, and you have very limited time. So that was that. But no, so I mean, with a wheel, obviously very playable. I can't say I necessarily had time to fully analyze the force feedback. One thing though, that I would love it if Codemasters used the rumble feed, the transducer on the TGT wheel. It's such an underused feature that's amazing on Gran Turismo Sport. I'd love them to use that, because it's a lot of people talk about the force feedback in terms of resistance, but I really like that was used the way that was used in terms of surface texture, which is a massive thing that many of these top wheels don't simulate. So there is that. I just want to talk a little bit about the controller as well. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of talking because I've played it and sort of relaying that to you guys. Let's talk about the controller for a second. Controller input is outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. And I've got a full video of a full stage, which I may or may not run at some point, and I'll run some of that now. I don't know what assists from, but I can tell you it is to rally what Gran Turismo Sport was to track racing. You know, I could literally drive it as well with a wheel as I could with a pad. Very rarely do you find a racing game that's so well optimized to the controller. Hats off to whoever at Codemasters is doing their controller inputs. They are getting it just right, and it really is one of the best handling games out there with a controller. Phenomenal work at this stage. Whether that extends to the final game and all the cars handle great and all the tracks, we'll wait and see. Obviously, I only got to do the rally stage. I didn't get to do the rally cross at the time with the controller. That would have been fun, but we'll wait for that on a future preview. But either way, you know, worked really well with the controller. I think I did a better time on the controller than I did with the wheel. So, but then again, I don't know what assists are on. With the wheel, I didn't have any assists. I jumped in after John was in it and then decided, right, let's just use his setup. And I went over a minute slower. So, but over a 8 to 9 minute period, I wasn't too disappointed with that. It was, you know, it was a jolly challenging drive. So, you know, handling all round, like I say, that's as much as I have on it at the moment. We rely on the experts, and we look to test more of it later. What were your thoughts on that? Just looking at it, Kevin.
I mean, the handling looks okay to me. I was just a little bit surprised how flat the New Zealand track actually is compared to some of the tracks in the original Dirt Rally, and a lot of bumps and stuff. But like we said earlier, this could well be a good track for journalists and stuff, so they're not falling off the track every 5 seconds, you know. So, but they've got some really tough stages apparently. So I'll just be looking to see more difficult stages and stages that really implement that ground deformation, because what I'm seeing here is perhaps not the best stage to showcase that ground deformation, because so far what we've seen is pretty sort of flat, and there doesn't seem to be too much going on. But it'd be interesting to see what level they're at in terms of all the rutting and stuff. How much does it actually affect the cars? They're saying that if you go out early, it's not so great. If you go out very late as well, it's not so great. So it'd be interesting to see how they actually position you throughout the rallies as well in each stage. So do they mix you up so you get an even sort of chance, or, you know, is it all pot luck? But it's interesting to have that sort of dynamic sort of element to the rally, because often you'll go out on the rally stage, it'll be the same conditions for all the runners, you know, weather included, and, you know, it's pretty same. It's just all the same for everyone. Whereas here they might have, you know, the ground deformation might make a real difference, and you know, be checking your starting order before the off. You'll be checking your rivals where they're starting. It just adds a nice sort of element of unpredictability to the action. So I'd be interested to see a stage that really utilises that ground deformation.
Yeah, James, what, based on the package you've seen, what are your thoughts on it so far?
I'm optimistic about finding out more about Dirt Rally 2. It certainly seems like they've taken aboard some of the criticisms from Dirt Rally, and it seems that there's a very good platform in which to not only build a full game of, but then to build a game that can develop over time with additional content and support. I'd perhaps like to learn a little bit more about what Dirt Rally 2 offers over Dirt 4, and how the different gameplay elements, let's say how if there are championships in Dirt Rally 2, how the ground deformation is going to affect your running order, and how whether a bit of strategy would fall into whether you deliberately hold back at earlier stages so you've got better conditions to make a late rally charge. It'll be interesting to see how those elements could pan out. So overall, it certainly has potential, the package, not only as a base game, but also with Codemasters' plans to develop it and support it after launch. It'll be interesting to see how elements like the ground deformation would affect any esports competitions that they might want to continue, like whether competitors would hold off early on in the stage, so therefore they're lower down the order and get stage position for a late rally charge, and see how that would affect the standings of it. There perhaps isn't that much to go on at this stage to form any conclusive judgments on or opinions on, but overall, sort of, I'm looking forward to seeing what Codemasters can do with this one.
Okay, so I think the thing is that it was just an early preview. They weren't giving much away. I can see there's a lot of noise being made about the lack of VR support. I personally haven't had that confirmed to me, so I can't say that there's never going to be any VR support. We have talked about VR support in the past, and we've highlighted why perhaps there may be no VR support. Who knows?
Yes, we've been quite vocal.
So there is that. It's funny, the whole VR thing is very much like the no cockpit 5% of Grid 2 years ago. It all made a massive noise, and then when a couple of other games didn't have a cockpit cam, no one even mentioned anything. Suffice to say that I think if Codemasters have the option to bring it, I'm sure they will bring it. I think if they do on PC only, that would be fine. The PC's got the power. There's really no excuse not to have it. It might mean it has to be an extra pack. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see what other features. But other than that, there wasn't much to it, was there? It's not like we can say it's got 100 new cars and 20 new locations, and it's got a USP that's going to blow you out the water. I mean, it's got track degradation and more tires. I mean, it's really there's not much more to it than that.
It's also got a massive visual upgrade, it has to be said. For me, Dirt 4 was very bland. The textures didn't look great, and seeing Dirt Rally 2 has really opened my eyes now just to see how much improvement has been made since Dirt 4. I mean, I expected improvement, of course, because Dirt 4 was poor overall visually, but I didn't quite expect to see such a leap in 1 year's development cycle. It's quite incredible what they've pulled out the bag, considering the shortcomings in the visuals in Dirt 4.
Yeah, I mean, we have to look at this objectively. Dirt Rally 2 is likely to be the best rally game ever already on paper. I mean, it's already going to be there. I mean, if you're an absolute VR purist, stick to Dirt Rally 1. That's that. But if you're not, you got Dirt Rally 2. It's a real shame Sebastian Loeb never saw a second game.
I know.
I mean, that game had amazing locations and rallies in it.
Yeah,
it just had the most terrible audio. It really did. When you go back to it now, and the audio is just awful. That's something that Dirt Rally's never had a problem with.
No.
Amazing audio. So I think there's a lot to look forward to. I think that if Codemasters do commit to it and they do bring different tracks, I will say this. I mentioned this to the developer. The rally guys and the rally cross guys are very different breeds. And the focus, I personally feel, and I said this at the time, that you should have just got rid of the rallycross, just had a rally game. People would want, if you said we're going to have 20 rally locations and no rallycross, I think rally fans would be happy.
Yeah. It's like what James said, it's the marketable aspect of rallycross.
Exactly. You've got to remember, a lot of general public, they're going to buy Dirt Rally 2, they're going to crash off the first corner over and over and over again. They're going to get bored. They're going to get in the rallycross, and they're going to have loads of fun.
Bumper to bumper action.
Yeah, it's going to give them fun with their mates, fun racing online. That's why it's in there. It's got to be in there. Yeah. One thing I did highlight, actually, though, and again, they said this was specific to the stage, was how few people there were on the stage. I said it's quite lonely. I'm driving along, and there's no netting anywhere, or people and cameras and activity. I'm just driving in the country, basically. But they did say that this section of New Zealand was like that it was quite deserted.
Who knows that in real life, though?
Well, there is. It always seems to be massive
to be
crowds.
fair, though, Alan, I mean, the fact that the visuals have improved this much, I can forgive a lack of crowd, but I'd certainly want to see it in next generation rally games, because it's something that adds a lot to the atmosphere and spectacle of the event. It's half of what rally is.
Absolutely. They've told me that there's a lot more people on other stages. In fact, you can see there's a lot more people on the Argentina stage, so it does look much better there in that sense. One thing they do need to work on, though, is the replays. I've noticed a lot of the replays from helicopter cam. They don't have many TV cams, and I really hope that they work more on those replays, because when you're going to esports is all about great replays. And I really hope they put a lot of work into those replays for the esport community, because it will really help. But a lot of it right now is from helicopter cam, and on boards and stuff like that. So we'll wait and see how that develops. But
I guess that's an ongoing thing, isn't it? As they're adding optimization to the game. So now they've got to pick and choose the replay angles that they can actually show in game without showing any stuttering, or it's got to be technically sound, I guess, before they can really choose. No,
the replays are actually normally done around this time. It's all put together. I mean, replays, they don't wait to the last minute on replays. I mean, they do take time, and it's a dedicated member of staff who has to go through each, if they want to do that kind of resource and dedicate someone to it and do it properly. It's surprising how long it takes to get your replay cameras right, but they are a critical element. I've always said that. Gran Turismo, good example, amazing replays. Look at that, the market leader on console. So I think Dirt Rally 2, I think, just to finish off then, it's an announcement we've sort of been looking forward to. I think we can understand why Codemasters have played it safe in going for this announcement. I think it's going to be a top rally game. Of that, there's no doubt. I think I was a little bit underwhelmed by the package, and I think so at the moment. I want Codemasters to excite me with more of this package. Let's see how long these stages are, how much there is to drive, how many miles there is in there. Let's see what other modes there are, and let's find something that's going to excite us more about this package, because we need a bit more to it. Final thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, it looks fantastic compared to Dirt 4. Interesting to see how they bring this whole rallycross thing to fruition. Will they have the full calendar or not? They've certainly got 2/3 of the full calendar at launch, so it wouldn't be too much to think of adding another 4 to max that out. Underwhelmed by the number of rallies, but interested at the same time by the ground deformation, how much of a role it actually plays in the career modes. Audio, we know, is going to be solid, because it always is with Codemasters titles, so no worries there. It'd be interesting to see how different cars handle different surfaces, different like rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, and front-wheel cars, and the feeling of weight, and also the force feedback. But again, we have to get our hands on with the game to decide any of that. But looking forward to the title. Maybe a little bit surprised it wasn't a new grid title. I would have preferred a new grid, I must admit, because we are having a bit of rally fatigue at the moment. We've got these 2 dirt games. We've got gravel, we've got V-Rally 4 and WRC games every year. So it is very much a season of off-roading, isn't it, of the last couple of years or so. So I would have preferred a grid game personally. I know a few others would as well. But like you say, it's Codemasters need to really sort of knock it out of the park with Dirt Rally. So it's no surprise really that they're bringing in number 2 so soon after the amazing response from the original. But look forward to it, and just looking to see more stages and the ground deformation really. But so far very excited.
Excellent. Well, listen, thanks for your time today, chaps. And we look forward to seeing it again in a few months' time. I hope you've enjoyed, viewers, all the coverage on the channel over the past few days, all 5 parts leading up to this. Do leave your feedback and comments also in the forum as well. What we want to do is get all the comments in one place on the forum. And also, if you have questions for the developers in the future, we'll be taking them from the Dirt Rally thread in the forum. Do post them there. We won't be taking them from anywhere else. We want to keep it all in one place for our community and come back to you all. But that's it from me for now. As ever, more soon.